Hello and welcome to Spokane County Spotlight. I'm Spokane County Commissioner Todd Mielke, and my guests today are Nancy Hill, the Director of Scraps, and Janet Dixon, the Scraps Development and Public Relations Director. Welcome to Spokane County Spotlight.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, wonderful to be here.
Yes. So animal control in our region has been around, since 1923. And so what's that been like over the years?
Well, it's certainly changed. We found some old bound record books of licensing in 1923 where a license was $1 for a dog and the average breed was a cur, I guess today's mixed breed. But it's come a long way since the early days of the dog catcher and the dog pound to today's professional animal protection service.
So now, just as the services have changed over time, the facilities have as well. Now, you've been in a facility for quite some time. Tell me about what that facility's been like.
Well, our old facility, we were there about 45 years. It was originally built in what was the middle of nowhere, and then civilization encroached on it, and it was a place that no one really went or wanted to be.
It was hard to find, too. It was really, to give directions to someone to find, you practically had your GPS on and a big flag, and it was impossible. It was between a railroad track, the river, and a gravel pit.
So like my understanding is this is someplace you would never place a business. This was hidden beyond hidden. Yeah. It was like you said, on the other side of the railroad tracks, on a dead-end road, one that the train would stop numerous times a day and block people in or keep them out. Yeah. So it didn't really work well for you, did it?
No, and the worst part, too, this sort of selfish as a staff member, is we had one bathroom for all of us, all of our guests, and when we wanted to have meetings, we couldn't get more than 4 people into a room. And then the care of the animals, we really were working on a shoestring budget in a place that was not designed for animals.
Okay. And so working with the old facility, then the next step in the history of Scraps is to move forward and become regional in nature. So tell me about that. What does that mean to the public when we talk about a regional animal control program?
Well, I think of all the services in the community, animal protection services makes sense for regional. It's one-stop shop. If you're missing your pet, all lost animals would be housed under one roof. If you need a license, it would be a common license. So if you move from Spokane Valley to Spokane or unincorporated Spokane County, you simply have to change your address. You don't have to throw that license away and go to another jurisdiction and get a different one. And then the power of the group. We have these hoarding cases. We have puppy mills. We have natural and man-made disasters where you really need to help a lot of animals at once. And when you have a regional service, you have those resources to provide the assistance needed.
And for the public, it also means that when you lost your dog had to know where the city limits ended in order to know who to call. Well, right. That's not going to happen. So when you're frantic and lost your pet, now you only call Scraps. That's all you need to know is Scraps. So if you find a dog in your yard, you call Scraps. You lose your dog, you call Scraps. You lose your cat, you call Scraps. It's just Scraps now.
Okay. So the old scenario, if my family has a pet and I'm the parent and my child is distraught because Scruffy's missing, it seems like the old pattern was every night after work I'd make the rounds. And I'd go to the Humane Society, Spokane Animal, and Scraps. And so what we're saying now is this is one stop. Everyone that finds an animal brings it to Scraps, and we hope that the owners will find their pet there.
And you also had to go online. So you had to go online to 3 different places and look for the animal as well. And that's not the way it is anymore. You just go online to our we do encourage you to come in because you might be calling your spaniel a spaniel and we might be calling it something else. So please do come in. But you can also go online and see if the animal's there as well, cats and dogs.
Okay.
Well, we make it really easy for people to find their lost pet because our list of impounded animals is updated automatically on our website every 2 hours. We have a lost and found bulletin board, and then, of course, that pet license. If your animal is wearing a pet license or really any form of ID, including a microchip, we're going to look up that owner information and we're going to contact you and get that pet returned.
Okay. So basically we have a regional service now that's a one-stop shop for finding lost animals. It's a one-stop shop for uniform ordinances across the region regarding animals. Kind of a one-stop shop for dangerous animals if somebody's got a concern about a dangerous animal.
Or abuse. An animal.
and enforcement issues for consistency as well as I think what the licensing is kind of a one-stop shop for licensing as well. Am I missing anything with regard to that spectrum of regional services?
Well, I think another important aspect is, you've covered the enforcement and the licensing and how to find your lost pet, but what do we do with those lost pets if no owner ever comes or they're simply a homeless animal? So now we have a regional adoption center where people can come in and have a wide selection of dogs and cats for adoption and do a wonderful thing by helping a homeless animal.
Okay. Okay. And one of the things I want to touch on real quickly, when we talk about the regional services, Scraps has had a reputation as we talk about live release rates. We talk about animals being returned to their owners, animals being adopted out, and Scraps has a tremendous reputation in the western U.S. Do you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, we keep some statistics according to the ASPCA guidelines, and that lets us know how good we're doing as an agency. How many animals come in, how many we return to the owner, how many are adopted, and then how many are transferred. And we do have a huge transfer program. We're encouraging more people to spay and neuter their pets, and over time the intake is slowly going down. But I was just looking at the stats, and we returned 69% of dogs to owners last month. And that's an incredible number when you think about it. 69% of dogs went back to their owners after being found and rescued by Scraps animal protection officers. And by going regional, we've managed to hold our live release rate, even though we doubled our intake. So I'm very proud of not only Scraps staff, but our volunteers, our rescue partners, and the community for stepping up and making this program a success.
Terrific. And when we talk about animal transfers, do you want to explain that a little bit?
Well, we transfer close to 2,000 animals to the west side of the state. They have a need for Spokane area dogs and cats. So the ones that we don't return to the owner or we can't adopt out, we're able, through a volunteer network, to transport them across the state to like-minded partners where they'll be guaranteed an adoption.
Okay.
We also work with over 60 rescue groups in the area, and these rescue groups can be specific breeds, so like a boxer, a German Shepherd, or a Dachshund. And so when we get an animal in that needs rehabilitated, and what I mean by that is it's been taught a bad behavior,
right,
that animal can go to one of these rescue groups. So in addition to the transport program, we also have these rescue programs as well.
Okay, terrific. So putting the regional program together on animal control, obviously the old facility didn't work. And so there's been a big change there with a new facility. I'm anxious to hear about your new facility.
Well, it's my favorite subject right now. I mean, we're now on an arterial in a centrally located area. It's a place where someone would put their business. We're on a bus route. We have the square footage to get the job done. And when you come in, it's like, wow, this is today's animal shelter, not the dog pound of years gone by. It has a real retail feel. And we're really hoping that's going to make more people come in and adopt more of the homeless animals.
And location. Where do people find it?
Huge. It's huge. It's 6815 East Trent. And so we sit between Fancher and Park, and the major streets of Fancher and Park on Trent. We have, from the real estate agent, we have 25,000 cars that pass by us. In our old facilities, we had, 5 cars maybe?
I was saying 3 and they were lost.
Yeah,
they were lost.
So now we have 25,000 people and a beautiful sign that tells them what we're doing. I think more and more people will just stop by and look at the facility now, where before you had to know where we were. You had to come find us.
And that's already happening. Just since we've been open, people have been coming in, they walk in, they're like, wow.
Right.
And families are coming in, they're spending time in the cat room, they're spending time in the dog adoption mall, they're hanging out at Scraps because it's a fun and happening place. It's bright, it's light, it's open area, and it's inviting.
Now, some people recognize this building as the old Harley-Davidson dealership on Trent, and that's okay, because as long as people can identify where to find Scraps. And so this is the old motorcycle dealership on East Trent.
Yeah. We're the orange and shiny one, Todd.
Lots of orange and lots of chrome. Lots of chrome that's been shined. And so very easy for people to find. Okay, terrific. So when we talk about the facility, I know that there was a long search for facilities, and this one was kind of discovered by accident. I know there's a lot of questions about how it was financed. Right. I think some of the facilities that that were looked at were 3-4 times the cost and much less the building. So you want to talk about that search for the building, and you want to talk about how it's financed?
Well, it was an interesting search, and originally our criteria, we were looking something 40,000 square feet on some property where we'd have some green space, which is important to the shelter, and that was very hard to find. It was a lot of old abandoned warehouses, that sort of thing. But as the search went on, and as our intake as a community of animals went down, we realized maybe we don't need quite that amount of square footage, and it opened up some possibilities of maybe a smaller building that we could retrofit into a regional shelter. And then we had our core area, somewhere around the fairgrounds, and going out would be really central to the service area just off I-90, easy access to the north side. And all of a sudden this whole Harley-Davidson dealership, and it's really not that old, popped up, and it's really turned out to be the perfect fit.
So and this building was about 10 years old, I think, and when you take a look at its energy efficiency, my understanding is it's kind of top of the scale.
Yeah, the building was not an old abandoned warehouse. The building has some style. It has energy efficiency. It was built of durable materials that we're looking for, because when you're housing animals, you know, it can be a maintenance issue.
Right.
And then it had some green space, surprisingly. Behind the building, we do have some green space and a secondary lot. So we do have room for the animals to get out of the building with people and have a little fun.
Great.
And as large as it is, we're using every inch of it. It allows us to be much more efficient, where before we were literally crawling all over each other. Like, if I wanted to have a meeting somewhere, I had to wait for a safer testing to be done in order for me to get into what we called the bunker. It was a little brick addition onto the building. And so now we have an actual community room to teach our dog training classes, to teach classes that we want to do, our volunteer orientation. We have an actual space to put people other than our garage in February, which is what we were doing.
Unheated garage, I think, if I recall.
Unheated garage in February. So we now have spaces to put incoming animals. We now have spaces to do exams. You know, we have spaces to do the job that we need to do.
Okay, and space for people to work. I know.
Absolutely.
I remember the other facility, we had a workspace that was literally maybe just a little bit wider than a computer, and you literally had 2 to 3 people assigned to that space.
Exactly.
And you waited for each other to be done with your project so you could be the next one on the computer.
Well, honestly, going regional, we really doubled our size when we took on our new customers in January, and we doubled our staff, and we doubled our intake. But until we moved to the new facility, we did not double the size of our building. So we were literally sitting in the closet. We had to farm some of our enforcement staff down to the courthouse temporarily until the new building was ready. But the new building not only houses the animals we need and gives that welcoming appearance to the public, but it has room for our special programs. And our special programs are so important because we want a volunteer program. We want an animal rescue program. Animal medical is important in our exams rooms. And we have the space for that now. And we have better air handling, better podding of dogs, so that the dogs, instead of being one big open space where, you know, if they cough and there's a cold, it's shared, now we have dogs in little pod groups that have their own air exchange system. So animal health is going to be greatly improved in our new facility. Okay.
And the facility was financed how? I know that was one of the questions that some citizens are curious about. So how does this happen? I know that originally when Scraps was looking for facilities, we were talking in the range of $9 to $14 million, and we're a third, I think, of that. And so on that front, we came in a third less than I think the original, or even a fourth of what the original projections were. But people still would like to know, what money pays for this?
Well, when the regional discussions of the regional task force really began meeting and we looked at the regional budget, we realized there was some economy of scale of everyone joining together. So by everyone joining together, continuing to promote pet licensing, which really is the major source of revenue that helps fund the program, there is an economy of scale, and that economy of scale will go into a debt service payment. The building will take us 20 years to pay off, but I believe the building will serve the community for at least 50 years. If we got 45 out of our last one, Todd, I know we can get 50 out of this one.
Right. There we go. So we've talked about the facilities, we've talked about the new regional services. Why don't we talk about some of the other, the vast array of services that's provided by Scraps?
Well, animal protection would be our main one. That's what separates us out, is we are now the Animal Protection Agency in the Spokane County.
Okay.
So we're charged with enforcing the state laws, the county laws, and any municipal codes, city codes of our partners regarding animals. So that's anything from the extreme of animal cruelty, which is, so hard and sad in our community, clear to a nuisance dog barking or running at large and getting in the neighbor's garbage, the vicious animals, the dangerous dogs. That's the reason Scraps is here, is to protect people and to protect pets.
And you had a large, just in the last year, it's not always just dogs and cats. No. You had a very large animal cruelty case involving horses. How many horses involved, and what's been the end product of that?
Well, I actually called last year the year of the horse, although I think it's really this year. Okay. But we seized over 100 horses off of 4 different search warrants and had to open up emergency shelter at our county fairgrounds and had help from all kinds of partners. And it was really a group effort in getting these animals rescued. And I am proud to announce that as of just a couple weeks ago, we have placed all of those 100 horses into new homes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. So other services, so we said animal abuse and neglect, certainly top of the list. Right. We've talked about trained animal protection officers, and there is a statutory requirement under Washington state law about doing that. I don't know if we want to talk about how people place those calls and how they're processed, or the licensing program, anything like that.
And the training that the officers get.
I mean, the officers are special deputies and special police officers. They are trained through different various law enforcement academies and animal protection officer academies, and a very strong field officer training program at Scraps. And we're very proud of our enforcement unit. They care deeply and are especially, focused on the animal cruelty and knocking that down in our community. But there's so much else we do. The licensing is critical, critical to the service because of several things. One, it's required by law. It's your pet's phone call home if it's ever lost, and it helps fund a very important spay-neuter voucher program. We have spay-neuter vouchers for all licensed pet owners, and if you need one, you come in, get the license, get the voucher, and that's the long-term solution to our community pet overpopulation problem. And you can get licenses online, in person, through the mail, and then filing a complaint. If you have a concern, don't hesitate to call Scraps. And you can do that via phone. You can fill out an online complaint. And if you want, you can write us a letter, send us an email. However you want to use a form of communication, we will accept it, and we will answer your call for help.
Okay.
And in addition to this, so Nancy's kind of talking about what a municipal shelter does. We have another side to Scraps, and this is called the Scraps Hope Foundation.
Okay.
The Scraps Hope Foundation has all the programs to provide enrichment to the animals that are there. We do the animal medical, and this is big. All of these programs that I'm talking about are sponsored strictly by donor dollars. So if a homeless animal gets hit by a car and brought back to Scraps, that's not paid for by the budget in the municipal shelter. In order for us to take that animal to the veterinarian and help that animal, donor dollars pay for that. And then the animal's brought back, the rehabilitation, and then the recovery period goes into a foster program, and then the adoption that we're going to have. That's our ultimate goal, is to get this animal adopted again. All of that is paid for by donor dollars in there. In addition to that, we have a volunteer program. Our volunteers are huge. We have
how many do you have now?
300 active volunteers.
Okay.
We love those guys. These are people who work a shift at work and then come and work with us, and they take the dogs for a walk, they bathe the animals, they scratch and pet the kitties, and then they come and they work for me, which cannot be pleasant, I gotta tell you. So, I do the events, I do the mailings, all of that kind of stuff. So these people come in, and we have 22 volunteer opportunities for people to fill at Scraps. One of the things that we do too, and I just got to give a shout out to our photographers, when you look at a Scraps ad, or you look at one of our brochures, or you look at something on Facebook, the animal that you're seeing is actually an animal that was at Scraps. And a professional photographer has come in, we call them our glam shots.
Okay.
And they've come in and they've taken a picture of those animals.
Right.
So that's all done by volunteers. We could not, as a staff, do any of that. It's huge.
Now, the Hope Foundation also engages in other public resources
Yes.
that they make available. And it's,
Yes.
you want to talk about some of those?
Our information kiosk, one of the things that I'm so excited about in this new building is that community room. Like I said, meeting in a garage doesn't really instill people a sense of professionalism. So when we have our community room, we can have the volunteer training in there. We can have dog training sessions. And by the way, those are free, the dog training sessions on the 1st and 3rd. You have a problem with your animal, come in to this dog training and learn how to retrain your dog. So we can do that. We can have meetings with our officers and maybe other officers in the area to learn a new training technique in that community room.
Okay.
We're thrilled to have that space. Outside that space sits our information kiosk. We really want people to understand that that pound mentality that they know or have in their mind is gone. You got to rethink this. We are now there as a resource for people. If you're having problems with your cat, suddenly for some reason won't use the litter box, we can help you with that. We've got papers on that, both hard copies in that information kiosk and online.
Okay.
We have information on introducing your dog to a new dog that you want. We have information on excessive barking, trying to get your dog to stop excessive barking. We have information on trying to get your cat to stop climbing. Whatever it is, the problem that you have, come to that front kiosk and you will see an answer to that question.
Now, you also have a food bank.
Yes,
You want to talk about the food bank?
We do have a food bank. I think one of our main goals is trying to make sure that you can keep your pet in your home for whatever reason. So if you've hit a hard time, lost a job, whatever, you can come to us and we will give you the food out of our food bank that we have. Once again, that food bank is sponsored by donations from people. So we have some wonderful, wonderful people who do yearly drives for us. We have scout groups. We have kids at schools who bring us donations of food, cat litter. All of that can go for our animals, but the leftover can then go on to the food bank to help people who are having a little trouble.
So people can bring their can donate to the
Absolutely.
food bank as well.
And if your cat hates the food that you bought, we'll take that.
Okay, so we're down to just our last few minutes. When you have an interaction with the public, like on your enforcement officers, what are some of the most common mistakes that pet owners are making that we really want them to be aware of?
Well, I think often owners don't train and socialize their animals, and that can cause a lot of trouble, especially the socialization. If animals are socialized, they're going to be friendly. They're going to be more accustomed to, if they accidentally get out, then maybe they won't chase the bike rider, they won't try to bite the neighbor boy. So socialization, training, and then being aware we have a leash law. And that means when your dog is off its property, it should be on a leash. And getting that license. I mean, if something happens, then that license is the pet's phone call home.
Now, in summer months, warm months, some of the most frequent calls for enforcement officers, for some reason, people love to take their pets with them everywhere, and sometimes it's when they're out running errands and they leave their pets in the cars.
People forget how hot a car can warm up. I call it the love it to death syndrome. We all love our pets. We want to take them with them. But in the summer, you just have to leave them alone. In our climate, and it doesn't even have to be that warm. If the sun is shining, it heats up a car very quickly. And dogs don't sweat like we do. And they can get overheated very quickly, and it can cause very serious injury, even death.
People keep saying, I only left for a minute. I left the windows down. I only left for a minute. If you can get into Costco and out in a minute, I will pay you money. But we all know that that minute is more than a minute, and you just need to be aware. Please leave the dog home.
And that can result in a cruelty charge.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. So we're just down to a little bit more than a minute, and so people can be reminded that they can find your facility on Trent.
Yes.
They can please remember to license their pets. They can license by mail, online, by coming in.
And they can go online and find out everything that we've been talking about, safety tips, all sorts of stuff. Go to SpokaneCounty.org/scraps, and you can find out everything we've been talking about.
Terrific.
And come see the new regional shelter.
Come see us. Meet your new best friend.
Well, congratulations on not only an excellent program, but the new facilities as well. It's a great asset for the residents of Spokane, the entire region. I hope you've enjoyed this program about the Spokane County Regional Animal Protection Service. Thank you, Nancy Hill and Janet Dixon from Scraps, for being my guests today, and the great programs and services that you provide. I'm Commissioner Todd Mielke. Thank you for joining us for Spokane County Spotlight.